Welcome to this last video on photo retouching, and the last one sort of, I guess, really I'm trying to say here is in Photoshop, and this one's on photo retouching. So the big idea here is, how do you remove those wrinkles, those gray hairs, age spots, bald spots, dark circles under your eyes, all those things that we want to get rid of, right? So anyways, this here, we're going to use the spot healing brush sort of as our tool. Now there's different ways you can do things as well. But the spot healing brush is quite useful. And so we'll just take a look here. Now this guy he's not too bad, but we'll fix him up. So I'm going to just copy that image and go to Photoshop and file. Whoops, I guess I have to place this one. Whoops, why won't it let me? Oh, there we go. New, clipboard, sure, create, Control V, and there we've got it. Now, there's nothing really wrong with him. Perhaps, though, we want to remove a few little blemishes there. Zoom in on the poor fellow. Skin is skin, right? Things aren't perfect, but our standards, right, are perfection. And so what we're going to use is something called the spot healing tool. And it's somewhere over here. There it is, spot healing brush tool. Now, before we get into it, we want to do a couple little things. We want to make sure that it's on content aware. The other thing we want to do is create a new layer so that we're making the modifications not to the original, but to this layer above. And then also make sure that this is on content aware and that we have sample all layers. If you don't do that, it's only going to sample this layer and there's nothing in this layer, and so nothing will exist. Now, what we kind of, I guess the thing is we sort of overdo it and then we dial it back. That's kind of our idea here. So the spot healing brush is just, sort of an algorithm in Photoshop which sort of samples the area around, sees what's different, and then, sort of blends over what's different with what's around it. So if I sort of, pick on this pimple first, or whitehead, or whatever you want to call it, and click on it, it sort of samples it, and then it's kind of gone, right? And so we can do the same thing. And so generally, that's all you sort of have to do. Now, it seems I put in extra spots there, so I just sort of go around and do that. Now, I mean, freckles, we all have freckles, so, but if you wanted to remove a few, you could. I mean, that's maybe a pimple there, maybe down here. Now, if it does something weird, sort of like that, I would go Control Z, and then maybe bring your brush in a little bit smaller and see if you get a better result. Yeah, so that was a better result there. And if you really are anti-freckle, I guess, you could go in and, remove the freckles as well. Any moles, right? At a certain point, you're doing, you're changing the person, right? So again, you have to sort of exercise caution, especially if you don't have their permission. But, you want to sort of improve things a little bit there. Now, what I mentioned was that you can dial things back. So from a distance, I don't think this is overly untouched, right? Now you can sort of turn it off and turn it back on, and you can kind of see the changes there. Not much. I was worried about the skin difference in the color there, but I think that already kind of existed there. However, having said that, you can go in, and this is where I said you sort of overdo it at the start, and then you just dial it back a bit. And so what you end up getting is just more of a subtle reduction rather than a complete removal of things. Okay, the next thing that we'll do, we can actually use this for a variety of different purposes. And so if we come down here, we've done that already, you could actually get rid of something, I guess something Spanish here. We can take this image and we'll use the spot healing brush again. So I think I'm going to, copy that, spot healing brush. Now this one I'm going to use, let's just see here, spot healing brush. Sorry, wrong thing. File, new, clipboard. This one, I'm using the spot healing brush tool, the healing brush tool, spot healing brush tool, and I can't quite remember the difference, sorry. Let's just see. So the spot healing brush tool, okay, so I'm going to just try to get rid of, sorry about that, whatever, some of this graffiti. And so, yeah, I can just sort of drag my brush over top, paint over it, and there, it's gone. So I could actually probably do all of this. It's gone. Pretty good. And even with the brick here, right, it maintains it pretty well. I mean, there's some spots there, but yeah, it's quite good. Now, I probably should have done this in a new layer. So let me just do it in a new layer just to show you the difference here, right? Now, I would probably just do section by section. Just like that. And you can kind of see that here, right, that's the original. And then what I've basically done is it's painted over that, right? It's added this to the image to get that. And it looks pretty good. This one you probably wouldn't reduce the opacity because then you're just going to get the text appearing there, right? But it does a pretty good job. Now it works well if there's lots of samples that are kind of similar. Works less well, right? Like if I try to get rid of some of this unsightly garbage or something, it might, yeah. So then you sort of get this repeated pattern. Sometimes, if there's just little pieces, that works out well, but sort of extended bits can be a little bit more problematic, right? So you can see, right, it doesn't hurt to try, but you don't always get perfect results. Now, the new generative AI, probably going to change all this. We won't have to do that. We just say remove garbage and get rid of it. But yeah, that's this is the old school way. Last but not least, you'd be surprised how effective it is. So if we took this image here, and again, the key thing is we've got a lot of repetitive, non-specific sort of images, right? It's like, I guess, background. So I could take this and again, the spot healing tool. And now before I do that, and you can see it worked out pretty well, but what I'll do here is just do a new layer and making sure I'm using content aware and sampling them all. Good, and that's gone. And in fact, this person, we could probably get rid of. And it did a pretty good job there, right? So again, there, not there. There's a little bit of discoloration or whatever. It's probably sampled a bit from over here. I can see that same little piece. Sometimes what I will do then is I take the, where is it here? Give me a second. Now I drop a tool. I want to do the, the name escapes me for the moment. There we are, clone stamp tool. And I'll just show you this little technique. So again, this one, making sure we're sampling all the layers. I could work in this layer as well. So I notice that that's kind of the same, which is a bit disconcerting. I can see those two dots. I mean, most people wouldn't probably notice, but I can sort of see it for sure. So I might grab some of this here. I'm holding down the Alt key, and you can see it does a little target. I'd want to maybe make my brush a little bit bigger, making sure it's a very soft edge so it blends in, so there's no hardness there. And I could sort of go over top and maybe, pull away that one, and maybe, whoops, now it grabbed it from there, so I'd have to resample it, Alt, come over here, and maybe sort of do that or something. Just so it looks a little bit more different than that there. Maybe that one in there, that looks better. So I'm just trying to, vary it up a little bit, just trying not to make sure that it's sort of too repetitive, because like I said, sometimes if like this one here too, right? So I'm going to hold down Alt. That looks very similar. So I'm just going to paint over top of it, maybe a little bit more there. Yeah, I think that does look better because again, that was kind of a specific shape, and it was sort of reforming there. All right. So again, with that layer on top, I still have the original, but you can kind of see that it's improved quite a bit. Okay, so that's the clone stamp tool plus the spot healing brush, and those are really good for fixing up images and fixing up people's faces and so on. All right, good.